Welcome back to the Apartment Geek. I'm your host, Chris Robinson, and I hope everyone has a really nice holiday coming up. We're kind of wrapping up the end of the year, the end of December, and a lot to be grateful for. If you're in the business of apartments, that's obviously a big thing to be fortunate about and grateful for. And the residents that we have and the beautiful communities that we live in San Diego and we own properties in. There's a lot of really nice things going for us, especially as we look down the road. California in general, a little bit more restriction, but we're going to get around that. We're not around it, but we're dealing with it, and it's part of the game, and it's okay. So today I want to talk about something that's been a topic for my entire career. It comes up with listings that we have, depending on where it's at, which areas, etc. And it has to do with parking. So does a property have parking available, on-site parking, we'll call it, or does it not? And you look at places like Bankers Hill and Hillcrest and places near downtown, Golden Hill, and parking's kind of this luxury or this amenity almost because of how dense things are. Beach communities, the kind of the same situation. And recently this came up with one of my listings that we're kind of in this marketing, kind of fielding interest, and we're getting activity on and questions, etc. Is what's the parking? And I don't want to talk about this specific listing, but with parking, I see a lot of investors that are like, I won't touch a building that doesn't have adequate parking. And then I have investors that are open to properties that have no on-site parking or very limited parking. We'll call that underparked. And my whole thing is it doesn't really matter. And the problem, I wanted to kind of bring this up because I see people that put parking as like this unnecessary weight or amount of value on. And it's really simple. It comes down to the numbers. If you have parking, then you're going to get a little bit higher rent. If you kind of really if you really start kind of getting into the precision of the details, you're going to get a little bit higher rent. If you don't have parking and you're in an area that's a good area, who cares? You're going to have the location, which is going to be the big draw. So tenants are just going to have to deal with it. But if you don't have any parking or it's a little bit of a pain for people, then you're going to get a little bit lower rent if you really kind of start getting, again, the precision tools out. So it doesn't really matter. And I see people that disqualify really, really good investments because there's not enough parking. And my response to that is, again, who cares? I think that there's almost this personal, emotional thing that people bring into it. Like, oh, I lived here once and they didn't have parking and that was a pain in the butt, so I wouldn't do that. It does not matter. If you find an asset that works and it doesn't have adequate parking, just understand that you may have to kind of take the rent down $25, $50 on the lower end of where market is, and just budget that into your pro forma so that it makes sense with your numbers, and call it a day. So I think hopefully this is coming across to people that it doesn't matter. If there's more parking, then if it's overparked, there's a ton of parking on the asset, then everybody has a parking spot. You can get market rents. If there's extra spaces, then you can charge extra for those spaces for extra, $25 a month or whatever it is. So that's kind of a bonus. If there's not enough parking, it doesn't matter. Still look at the property. If it kind of makes sense for your business model and the big picture of what you're doing, I would still consider purchasing assets that don't have enough parking. Just make sure you kind of understand the big picture and what the rents are really going to be like. But tenants are going to figure it out. If it's in a good location that's desirable, it doesn't matter. They're going to park down the street. They're going to have a skateboard in their car. They'll figure it out. They'll walk. They'll leave the house less often, etc. So I wanted to touch on parking. If you have questions about that or properties you own or properties you're looking at, feel free to reach out to me. I think I'm good with insights when I'm looking at specific properties and kind of offering my 2 cents. So have a happy holiday, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next year.